this day he said to me, he said, "How's your mother doing, Joe?" I said, "She's not so good, Mike." And we were concerned. He said, "Let's go and visit your mother, Joe." And Mike said, "Mrs. Egan," he said, "I remember on my 18th birthday." He said, "You sent over a shoebox with some potato chips. Some money in an envelope, would have been very little money. 22 years previous." And my mum said to Mike, "You remember that, Mike?" He said, "Mrs. Egan," he said, "very few people have given me anything in my life."
Hi guys, and welcome back to the platform. Got a massive interview for you today. I've been really looking forward to doing this one. I have to say, this is a man after my own heart. It really is, like with the background and everything. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Big Joe Egan. Joe,
David, thank you very much for the introduction.
how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Look, it's really lovely to have you here. It is.
No, that was lovely what you said there, thank you. I want to clarify something. I sparred Mike Tyson for nearly 2 years, Stephen. And this particular day there was 4 white sparring partners, which was unusual. Normally there was some black guys. But this day there was just the 4 white sparring partners. You knocked 3 of them out. I was number 4. I got battered from pillar to post. But he never put me down. And at the end of the spar, Mike Tyson said, "Joe Egan is the toughest white man on the planet. Far, far, far from it. I was the toughest white man in the gym that day." But what a compliment from a man like Mike Tyson. I got battered by Mike for nearly 2 years. I stayed on my feet. He made me cry many, many, many times. I got battered by Lennox Lewis as well. I fought Lennox. But it was an honour to share the ring with 2 of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Definitely the greatest heavyweights of my era. Every fighter that climbs into the ring dreams about becoming a champion of the world. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't anywhere near good enough to become a champion of the world. I fought lots of world champions. And it was an honour to share the ring with them. But getting battered by Mike Tyson and getting battered by Lennox Lewis, a privilege to be in the ring with them 2 men. Because if you're going to get battered, you might as well get battered.
You want to be with the best.
I got battered by the best, but it was a privilege because they achieved what I dreamed of achieving, Stephen. They achieved it. Greatness in the boxing ring.
I mean, Joe, look, you know, I have to say as well, you spot on, of course, right? But look, you certainly, you know, you went a really hard road yourself. Look, you know, just think for a minute what it takes to be Irish champion 7 times. Now look, you know, I got Irish blood in me, a little bit of Italian, grew up there in the old days and all that. We're well known for being hardy over there. We've had, you know, 1,000 years of war over there, Joe, right? But, you know...
We've had a hard history, but listen, the world has had a hard history. Every country has had hard times.
Yeah.
You know, and I think in life, I think you've got to experience hard times to appreciate good times. You know, the Irish have had a lot of troubles. You know, we were invaded by everybody at one time. You know, if you name the different people that have invaded Ireland. We've gone all over the world to work. Ireland's greatest export has always been its people. We've never invaded a country as an attack force.
No.
We invade a country to work. You know, and we're a good nation of people.
Good food, good crack, feet on the ground, really graceful people, and yeah, a bit of the crazy because we've had to defend ourselves and stuff like that. You know, but that's okay, Joe, right?
With the Irish, the culture, the music, the dancing, the singing, that's what we bring. The drinking culture with the Irish is renowned. I'm an Irishman that doesn't drink alcohol. People think, "What sort of an Irishman are you? You don't drink alcohol." My dad used to say I was a failure as an Irishman because I didn't drink alcohol. But I enjoy my life without alcohol. I had a Guinness with my dad when I was 16 on my 16th birthday just to toast my birthday with my dad. And I didn't like it. Had a cider with my friends when I was 14 and I didn't like it. I'm happy with a glass of milk. In Gaelic, Banya is the Gaelic for milk. And Banya Marsha de Holla. A glass of milk, please. You know, and that's what I like.
I don't drink myself, Joe, you know.
Don't touch it.
No, look, but many moons, 15 years now, Joe. So don't drink, don't smoke. So look, I want to go back a little bit now to you, the man, Joe, really, right? You know, you've had an unbelievable life as well. You really have, right? The ups and downs we were talking before. Look, you come from Dublin, right? So tell us a bit of how you started and the family dynamic and how that was for you.
I'm the eldest of 7 children, 4 girls and 3 boys. There's me, Emmett, Constance, Maureen, Anne, Connolly and Sinead, the youngest. My dad, like a lot of the Irish, came to the UK to work, went to America to work. Like I said earlier, Stephen, Ireland's greatest export's always been its people. We might have only got to see my dad maybe a month at the time throughout the year. If we got more than a month, it was a bonus to us. But he was a good provider. The money would come home. Wouldn't have been a lot of money. We never had chocolate biscuits or anything like that, you know.
Kept it all going.
My mum would make a feast with very little. Do you understand? She would make apple pies, mince pies. She would make... Beans was part of our staple diet. Beans and potatoes, you know. She would do wonders and magic with beans, you know. You daren't light a match in our house when we could be a lot of farting with the 7 of us and my mum farting as well, you know. But I lost my mum and dad in 2022. It was a bad year for me. I lost both my parents in that year. But I was the man of the house, Stephen. Do you understand? And I left school when I was 14. I couldn't read or write properly. But all I wanted to do was box. Because my dad, when he used to come home to visit us from England, or when we'd go and visit him in England, he would encourage us to box. Because I've experienced a lot of bullying in my life. When I made my Holy Communion, when I was 7 or 8 years of age in Manchester, I got my 2 front teeth knocked out by the bully boys. They tried to take my medal, my Holy Communion medal, and I held on to my medal, and they knocked out my 2 front teeth. All my years boxing, I only ever had 1 tooth knocked out. So I got bullied badly in England because I had the Irish accent. So I picked up the English accent to mix in. And when I came home to Dublin, I got bullied in Dublin because I had the English accent. So I've experienced a lot of bullying. And when the bullies would finish beating on me, rather than them hit my brothers and sisters, I would jump back up. You know, if I was knocked down, I would jump back up and I'd jump back in and say, don't hit them, hit me more, please. And I got to the stage where I could absorb a beating second to none. I've been hit by everything from fists to boots, by 2x4s, cricket bats, baseball bats, iron bars, you name it, the bullies have hit me with it. My body's been savagely beaten. I don't know how many stitches I've got in my body. Thousands, you know, with rips and bruises, cuts and ripped wide open. And, you know, I was a mess a lot of the times when I used to be getting battered by the bullies, but I would always fight back. And that's one thing I've always had. I've always had a lot of courage. But I think any boxer, male or female, that climbs into the ring to fight has courage. Respected. That's something that you're born with. You can teach people skills to fight, but if they haven't got the courage to fight, you play football, you play golf, you play tennis, you play basketball, you don't play fighting. Boxing, cage fighting, jiu-jitsu, karate, Muay Thai. I admire all fighters, whether they go to the cage, to the mat, or to the boxing ring, because I love the boxing because I'm an ex-boxer, but I admire all forms of fighting because first and foremost, it gives you self-respect, and then it gives you respect for your opponent. Yeah. We're not talking street fighting, we're talking about a sport.
And you know pain, Joe. This is the thing I always said about, you know, all the real tough men that I've ever met. They're not what people will think. They are the opposite of that, because they know pain, they know what this is, and they know what it's not.
I can absorb pain. The boxing ring, Stephen, was actually quite safe for me because there was only one man hitting me. Even if it was Mike Tyson or Lennox Lewis, it was only one man. I had a referee, I had a break in between rounds, I had best of medical care, cornermen helping me, doctors at ringside, you know, and I had none of them luxuries when you're getting beaten by the bullies. You know, you got battered.
And there's other stuff, the knives, the weapons.
I've been stabbed twice, Stephen. I've been stabbed twice and I've been shot twice. You know, so I've experienced bullying from a child to a man. I'll bow to royalty out of respect. I'll bow to no man out of fear. I won't do it. I'd rather die and have my pride than live and have no pride. Do you understand? Live crawling on my belly.
No, it's no life. You know, I agree with you 100%, right? It's like I say, Joe, there'd be one thing, you know, they ask me this, they ask me that. I say, look, there's only one thing I know is I'll leave here on my feet, not on my fucking knees. After that, I don't know. We're only borrowing this stuff anyway. But you have to, you know, you have to have that, don't you, as a man, as a person, Joe. And who cares? We're through it, you know. You have to go through the fire anyway, so many times, but you get to that point, right?
That's why, like I said, the boxing ring was safe for me, Stephen, you know, what I've had to endure in my life. But I tell people, my analogy of life, we spoke about earlier on. If you were on a life support machine, and I've been on a life support machine, I was 5 days on a life support machine in North Carolina, 3 days in a coma. You know, it was the first place that ever had a life support machine in the world, so I was in the right place. And when I came out of the coma and I was on the life support machine, it was a strange feeling. But I've had run-ins with the Grim Reaper many, many times. But the thing is, my analogy of life is when you're on that heart monitor and your heart beats and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down, that's life, peaks and troughs, you know, highs and lows of life. Without talking drugs, I've never took drugs in my life. Highs and lows of life, but you've got to experience the lows in life to appreciate the highs in life. And that's life, because see, when that heart monitor flatlines, you're dead. And I've come close to death on a few occasions. You know, I believe in heaven, I believe in God, I pray every day. I'm not in any hurry to get to heaven. I'll get there one day, please God. You know, and I'll be reunited with people that have gone before me. You know. Please
God, Joe. Please God. Well, look, so you kind of started your career. At 15 you was in the doors. You must already. I mean, after it, I get it all, Joe. Right? So you must have been a tough man anyway then. So what happened there? I mean, this is Dublin as well, right?
I grew up tough because of getting bullied. I learned how to box. I learned how to fight. My dad, when we were together, he was teach us the left jab. He had me and my two brothers in the garden throwing the left, straight left. Get you in, and when you're in trouble, he'll get you out. You know, and he taught us as well how to fight. My dad, like in every boy's eyes, your dad's the toughest man on the planet. My dad, in my eyes, was the toughest man on the planet. And that's all I ever wanted to do, was to do him proud. You know, to do my dad proud. My mother never wanted me to box. No mother wants to see her son getting battered. Yeah. You know, but I wanted to do my dad proud, you know, and winning 7 Irish titles was a major achievement. I didn't think I was good enough to win one. In one season, I won the juniors, the under-19s, the junior and the senior in the one boxing season, which was an incredible, and then I won 3 more senior titles. So
you won the heavyweight titles as well, didn't you?
I was a little fat kid, and I'd done the super heavyweights, but I wasn't strong enough for them big men. Yeah. They were naturally big powerhouses, 6'5", 6'6", but they were too big and strong. I fought loads of them, Americans, British. You know, I lost twice to England, the 2 ABA champions, but I was a little fat kid. Do you understand? And I was a game little fat kid. Don't get me wrong, Stephen. I was a game little fat kid, but I've always struggled with the weight. You know, sometimes I'm fat, sometimes I'm fit. You know, I do love me food. People ask me what's my favourite meal. I always tell them seconds. I love my food.
It's very tough for boxers. People don't understand just how disciplined and how hard that is to keep making the weight, Joe. Right? Especially when you're a pro.
I was up in the heavier weights, and I thought, when I'm not fit, I'll do the super heavyweights. When I'm fit, I can do the heavyweights. But I was better suited to the heavyweights because I was more comfortable at that size. You know, when you're in against the bigger, more powerful men, and especially when they're older than you. You know, when you're 17, I didn't have that sort of man strength, and you're fighting big powerhouses, 28-year-old men. But I was game. That's what I've always ever been.
There's a lot of learning in there in the rough and tumble with that. You know, you get hit.
All I've ever been is game, Stephen. Do you understand? I'll get in.
That's what you need to be. That's the first thing. You know, the rest you can learn a bit, right?
Try your best.
As long as you can.
That's all you can do, is try your best.
Yeah.
Some days my best wasn't good enough. Some days it would be good enough. You know, all you can do is try your best. And if your opponent is better than you, even getting into the ring before the fight. When I got into fight Lennox Lewis, he was a class act. Do you understand? Number 2 in the world, Olympic bronze medalist in '84. I fought him in '85. Won the gold in '88.
Very tricky.
Incredible fighter. I knew I hadn't got any chance against him. You're hoping that he has a bad day and you have an exceptional day. That's what you're hoping.
A very bad day, Joe.
A
very bad day.
But you get in and you give it your best and you try your best. And that's all I've ever done, is try my best.
So tell us about that fight with Lennox, because it's a really good one, right? Iconic. So how did that go? Because he was such a tricky, intelligent boxer, right?
I was sparring with Mike, and I was getting battered by Mike Tyson. We were 2 17-year-olds, and he was smashing me to bits, right?
Strong, right?
Oh, powerful. I tell people...
Strongest kid.
See if Mike Tyson missed you with a punch, Stephen, you'd get pneumonia from the draft.
Before we jump into that now, my new book has just hit bestseller on 2 categories called Extraordinary, Stephen Gillen, The Search for a Life Worth Living.
Right? He would hit you. I would open, when I show young boxers how to defend themselves, I know how to defend myself, right? Yeah. And you open the glove, keep your, turn in like that, use the full, because when you got it like that, your tempo's exposed, you understand? Yeah. So when you're under pressure, and I've been under pressure loads of times in the fights, they were better than me. So when I'm on the ropes, in the corner, getting battered, I would open my glove. So I would cover as much as my face as I possibly could. And I would use the full length of the glove to protect my eye socket, my temple, my cheekbone, my jaw, as much as I possibly could. And I show young fighters, when you're on the ropes and you're getting punished on the ropes, you got to think defense. Boxing is the art of self-defense, right? And Cuss showed me how to defend. And I had to defend against Mike. So when I was sparring with Mike, I had to go with the New York Golden Gloves. And I won the New York State Golden Gloves, which was a great achievement. Right, yeah. Had to go with the New York City Golden Gloves. And I was boxing in an annex at the Madison Square Gardens. And I was thinking about the next fight. If I win, I'm going to fight in the main Madison Square Gardens. And my dad was saying to me, 1 fight at a time, son. Don't be thinking of the next fight. Yeah. I'd been training in the Catskills. Then they brought me to Lake Placid to train at the Olympic Training Centre in Lake Placid with the New York State team. And we're running around the lake, and it's where they held the '84 Winter Olympics. And I was dreaming of the main Madison Square Gardens. Yeah. And in the semi-finals, I got beat in the annex. And a fight I probably could have won if I'd have been thinking of that fight instead of the next fight. So the man that beat me, he won the finals. He went on to the American Championships. He got knocked out by a guy called, I lost to Sinclair Babb. And then he got knocked out by Camilo Doom, who went on to win the American title. Camilo Doom boxed for America against Canada and got knocked out by Lennox Lewis. Right. So the New York All-Stars, City and State, was matched in 1985 against the Canadian All-Stars. The star of the New York team was a guy called Frankie Lyles, who was an incredible boxer, went on to win the World Super Middleweight title. The star of the Canadian team was Lennox Lewis, who went on to win the World Heavyweight title. So the two stars went on to shine. The New York champion who'd beaten me refused to fight Lennox Lewis because he got knocked out by the man that got knocked out by Lennox Lewis. So they said they'd nobody to fight Lennox. I said, I'll fight him. They said, Joe, the man that beat you got knocked out by the man that got knocked out by Lennox. I said, yeah, but I wasn't knocked out. And I've been sparring with Mike. Psychologically, I believe that if I can take Mike Tyson's punishment, I can take Lennox Lewis's punishment. Yeah. Because boxing, a lot of it is psychological warfare. And I believed that my chin, I still believe it to this day, my chin is a granite chin. You know, I've only ever been stopped once on punishment. I've been stopped a few times with bad cuts, but once on punishment I was stopped. In 1987 in the Acropolis Games, semi-finals, was in the medal stages, and I got put down for the first time in my life. And I got up, I got beat on my feet, but I was stopped because I was badly beaten. But I got beat on my feet. So I know my chin is granite. That fight in the Acropolis Games, I'd had a couple of hard fights that same week, and my eye was damaged, and I walked onto some bad punishment, and I lost to the eventual gold medalist, but I got a bronze. So I knew that my chin could stand up to Lennox Lewis's punches. I knew it. I believed it. I was confident of it. I hadn't got the ability to beat the man. I was hoping that I could.
It's always a chance, Joe, if you get in there. Yeah. You don't have to get in there. You got something.
I knew my chin could stand up to his punches. So when I got into fighting, I gave the best of me I possibly could. Wasn't anywhere near good enough, and I got hammered. I got battered. But I stayed on my feet for the 3 rounds, and he beat me. And it was an honour and a privilege to share the ring with the man. You know, I've had a few games of chess with him in the meantime, years later. I've never beaten him at a game of chess either. But to lose at a game of chess. But psychologically, I knew I could take his punishment. And I did take his punishment. And he went on to be one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, one of the greatest of my era.
Very slick.
Yeah, but...
Very intelligent.
Great fighter. An incredible fighter.
Defensive.
But he achieved what I dreamed of, you know. But that was how I got to fight Lennox Lewis.
Oh,
And people say to me, Joe, you milk it a little bit. I milk it a little bit. I milk it a lot, Stephen, because I've earned the right. I've earned the right.
What are you milking?
I've earned the right.
And you've gone through it and you've done it. It's
I've
a
earned
fact.
the right. I've earned the right.
And call that, you've earned the right. Now,
I've earned
look,
the right.
so look, behind stories, Joe, you know, adversity forges us, certainly does. I mean, I know, right? Had my own fair share of it along the way. So look, I know with you, back in the day as well, Dublin, you know, I had the Belfast thing. I grew up there till I was 9. So I know the landscape right in the middle of the war there. So I know the landscape. So you got involved, you went away for a couple of years, didn't you? Because things happen. So look, tell me, what happens about that?
Well, in my life, I knew in my heart of hearts, I'm not throwing bouquets at myself. All I ever wanted to do was do my daddy proud. Right?
Yeah.
The only time I'd ever seen my daddy cry up until I got into trouble was the day his daddy died. And I came into school, me and my 2 brothers came into school, and Mum was running around the hallway like headless chicken. She said, get up to bed, get up to bed. It's 4:30 in the day, Stephen. Batman was on at 5 o'clock. So I went up the stairs, Conley went into his bedroom, and I sat on the stairs with my arm around my brother Emmett, cradling my brother Emmett, because I got a bit of a fright what was wrong with my mum. So my dad was home at that stage. He was working in Ireland at that stage. And she greeted him at the front door when he came in from work. And I'm looking down through the banisters with my arm around my brother. And I saw my daddy hold his head in his hands and cry. I got the fright of my life. I'd never seen my dad cry before. Yeah. And I'm holding my brother in my arms. And I got the fright of my life. It turned out that his daddy had died. My grandfather was a sergeant in the Irish police, my dad's daddy. And I didn't really know him that well. My mum's people are travelling people and horse people. And when my mum met my dad, she was 15 and he was 20. When she was 16, she eloped with him. And the families weren't sort of getting on. But he gave us several children. You know, in later life I got to know my daddy's dad and my daddy's mum. But when I was a young boy, it was my mum's mum and dad that I got on with the best. I worshipped the ground that my granddad Ben stood on. The only time I ever went in to look at the body and stayed in the coffin was my granddad Ben, my mum's dad. And I leaned over the coffin and one of my teardrops fell onto his cheek and he was buried. Shaking now talking about that. He was buried with one of my teardrops on his face. But when my dad was crying in the hallway, I was so scared. You know, so scared. And as it turned out, his daddy had died. But wind the clock on. I'd always been a good person, Stephen. I'd never been in trouble in my life until I got into trouble. And I left school when I was 14. I left school with 2 swimming certificates. A 750 metre swimming certificate and a 1500 metre swimming certificate. Because we lived on the sea and I'm a good swimmer, you know. And I didn't have any academics or anything like that, you know. I just wanted to make my money with boxing. So I was on the doors at 15. And then when I went professional with the boxing, I was doing well. I was unbeaten up until a certain stage in my career. And then I was involved in a very, very bad car crash. And my career was over. My knee was shattered, my shoulder was shattered, my jaw was shattered. My boxing was over. And I didn't know what to do with my life because I was 24, gone on 25, prime of life, unbeaten, and suddenly it's over. And I went into a sort of a downward spiral. Still didn't get into trouble. Spoke to my dad and I said, I don't know what to do with my life, Dad. My boxing's over. I've no education, I've got no skills. Yeah, I stand on the doors, I've got a safety net of security, but do I want that for the rest of my life? You know, what do I do, Dad? I want to try and get some sort of skill, you know, safety net again. My boxing was my first bite at the apple and it's took from me. So I went over to Birmingham to visit a friend of mine, Paddy Finn, who was the former Irish heavyweight champion. His family had founded my amateur boxing club. Boxer Finn, his dad, John Boxer Finn. And he had the Dubliner pub in Digbeth, Birmingham. So I came over and he gave me an opportunity to run his pub. I'd done my licence C, I'd done my BII, British Institute of Innkeeping, I'd done 2 MVQ certificates, and I was so proud to be able to show my mum and dad, look what I've got, mum, look what I've got, dad, you know, because I'm not academic. So I was so proud, and I managed the Dubliner pub for 2 years. Then an opportunity came up to take over the Lyndhurst pub in Erdington, Birmingham. I went over, big function room in the pub. I put on 2 boxing tournaments in the function room. Bunny Johnson, the first black British heavyweight champion, came to visit my pub with his Lonsdale belt. Ernie Shavers came to visit my pub, hardest punching heavyweight of all time. Rob Norton, the former cruiserweight champion of the world. Richie Woodall, the former world supermiddleweight champion, all came to frequent my pub. Paul Barber, Denzel and Bunny Fools and Horses, when Full Monty was out, he came to visit my pub. He was my friend. And a lot of celebrity friends come to visit my pub. And this pub was on a housing estate. That was a rough housing estate, but with good people. Good people. And me and my business partner, Tommy McGill, he put the money up. And we built the pub up. We done it up. And we were having a great life. So now I've got a second bite at the apple. Some people don't even get 1 bite at the apple. I've now had 2. So in July 1998, on the 19th of July 1998, the racketeers, the scum, the bully boy thugs again in my life surface. And they put a demand on my pub for £500 a week protection money. And my business partner, ex-French Foreign Legion, Medal of Honour winner, he said, let's take it to them. And I said, no, Tommy, I'm a licensee. I've now got a second bite at the apple. Let the police deal with it. Do you understand? I'm not a vigilante. Let the police deal with it. My sergeant, a good man, kind man, decent man, the way a police officer should be. I told him what was going on. He said, Joe, we'll deal with this. No problem. Carry on as normal. The following week, the 26th of July, Stephen, had a communion on in my function room. These gangs were gathering to attack the pub. They'd already been given the threats through the week. But as far as I was concerned, the police were going to protect my patrons and protect me to a certain extent. I got a phone call from a friend of mine half an hour before the attack. He said, Joe, these gangs are gathering. He said, they're going to attack you. I phoned Andy. I said, Andy, these gangs are gathering. He said, right, I'm on my way to you, Joe. He said, I will get the station to send men to disperse these gangs. As he was on his way to me, he got sent to a Mickey Mouse alarm call on the Bromford. Half an hour later, there's 37 men, maybe more, because it was only that was 37 that we saw on camera. Maybe there was more that didn't make it onto the car park. With a handgun, a shotgun, hatchets and machetes, all balaclavaed up, scarves on their faces. And they attacked my pub. And it was a bloodbath. Headlines in the newspapers the next day said the Braveheart film was made look like a Walt Disney movie compared to the attack at the Lyndhurst. That's how bad it was. It was a bloodbath. One guy got his arm chopped off and the guy got his hand chopped off. It was a bloodbath. I took 2 gunshot wounds. There was a guy called Steve Dalton, bravest man I've ever met in my life, and I've met some brave men, Stephen, in my life, right? He ran at the gun. He ran at the bullets. He ran at the gunman. I hid behind a wall. I'm not ashamed to say it. I hid behind a wall. You know, he ran straight at the gunshots. Took 2 gunshot wounds. I watched him drop. I blessed myself. I thought my friend's dead. The gun jammed after 3 shots. It was a 32. It jammed after 3 shots. So when the gun was thrown on the floor after 3 shots, an old man called Tim O'Regan, a man that had fought in World War II, Irish man from Limerick, fought in World War II for the British Army and survived World War II. He stepped out with his hands up. He said, I can stop this. I know these gangs. I know these people that are attacking. I'm not going to mention their names. I'm not going to glorify them. As he stepped out, the guy that was doing the shooting was handed a sawn-off shotgun. I stepped out from behind the wall to pull Tim O'Regan back in. And as I stepped out from behind the wall, the man that was doing the shooting looked into my eyes. I've looked into a lot of evil eyes over the years. Men that I was fighting in the boxing ring. Men that I was stood on the door. I've looked into some dangerous eyes. But I've never looked into anything as vicious and as vile as the man that shot Tim O'Regan and shot me. And he blasted Tim O'Regan. He blew the hip clean out of Tim O'Regan. So some of the shotgun pellets hit me. He fired a second shot. And I've smelled some stenches in my life, Stephen. Right? I've been in training gear that is
Just shit.
right, yeah. I've been on farms and I've smelt all sides as well. I've smelt some stenches in my life, but I've never smelt a stench like burning skin. It was the most horrific stench that I've ever smelt in my life. And Tim O'Regan was bad. I was badly wounded. And
Nasty.
yeah, it was a nasty. Horrific day. Steve Dalton, I complimented him. He didn't die. I said, Steve, bravest man I ever met in my life. He said, Joe, my wife and sister was in that pub. If them scum animals had got in them doors, he said, who'd not? Mike Tyson presented Steve Dalton an award at a big dinner at the Metropole Hilton in front of 1,500 people. He brought him onto the stage and he complimented Steve Dalton. He said, Steve, thank you for putting your life on the line for my brother Joe. Right, and he did.
You think the women in there too, Joe? You know,
some of the women were as brave as the men. They came out. Some of the women came out to attend the wounded because there was wounded. You know, patrons of my pub. I know, on the day nobody died, Stephen. Do you understand? But
it's a good thing.
Blessed.
Be thankful for that. But a lot of carnage, Joe.
Horrific. But then my life spiraled out of control after that. My life spiraled out of control, and this is where I got into trouble, Stephen. You know, Andy Gilbert, Sergeant Andy Gilbert, I think he's a senior inspector now, and he sent me an email. I don't do emails. My wife got the email, and he sent the email. He said, Joe, I'm sorry that you didn't get the service you deserved on the day. He said, I'm sorry that your life spiraled out of control afterwards, which it did, because I got charged. All I done was defend myself, and I got charged with attempted murder, and I got only defending myself. I'll do the same again. I'm not going to be walked on by anybody.
You have to.
Right?
That's the way it is.
And
you don't start this stuff, but you have to be able to finish it.
That's it. So I beat the attempted murder charges. And it had headlines in the newspapers, justice prevails, because what was being done to me was wrong. But while I was fighting these charges, the brewery said I wasn't a fit and proper person to run the pub. So they're trying to evict me from the pub. My ex-missus, I won't speak bad of her, she recently, tragically, she died of cancer at 51 years of age. God rest her, do you understand? But she, at the time, she abandoned the sinking ship. Because I was sinking fast, Stephen. And she abandoned the sinking ship. She left me for Michael Flatley, the world's Irish dancer.
Yeah, the dancer. Yeah, the world's greatest dancer. What happened there with that, Joe? And Joe, I've sunk more deeper and more, you know, than anyone knows anything about my stories. I've been there.
She recently died, Stephen.
There's never no judgment.
She recently died of cancer at 51 years of age. I won't speak bad of her, and I would never. God rest her. I know she's in heaven, right? But so she abandoned me at the time. The brewery was trying to evict me, and the police had got me on attempted murder charges. I wasn't getting legal aid. I sold everything I possibly could sell to pay for legal fees. I sold my watch that my mum and dad had got me for my 18th birthday, the ring they got me for my 21st, I sold my car, I sold my lovely leather jacket that I brought home from America. I sold everything I could, and then I sold my soul to the devil. I went down the road of crime, which was a wrong thing to do. I didn't have any other option, because what was being done to me was a crime. And when I got the opportunity, I'd done it. To get money to pay for legal fees, because like I said, I'm not saying I was right, I was wrong. Do you understand? And I got captured and I got sent to prison, and when I got sentenced to 2.5 years, the West Midlands police, they weren't happy with the 2.5 years, because I'd exposed them for corruption. They weren't happy, so they stuck the boot in. When I was down, they stuck the boot in, and they tried to get me 7 years. They increased it to 4. But I served 2 years in prison. While I was in prison, I saved a man's life in prison. I got accommodation from the governor. So I'd done some good when I was in there. I stopped a lot of bullying when I was in the prison, so I helped a lot of victims of bullying while I was in the prison.
Now, Joe,
So when I got sentenced, Stephen, when I got found guilty, right, my dad was in the gallery, and I looked up. I was found guilty. I looked up, and I saw him hold his head in his hands, and I saw him crying. Me getting sent to prison had the same effect on my dad as his daddy dying. The only 2 times I'd seen him cry in my life. And I felt sick. I felt sick and ashamed. Yeah. Even now, no matter how many times I talk, I keep saying, don't cry, Joe. I keep saying, don't cry, Joe, but it doesn't matter how many times I talk. I feel sick. I feel sick. And I swore then, I'll never get into trouble again. And I won't get into trouble again, Stephen. Yeah. He's gone now, but he still watched me from heaven.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, but I felt sick and ashamed. And I walked down them stairs to the cells, and I just felt so bad to watch him cry. When I got out of prison, I got myself fit in prison. And when I got out of prison, I didn't like being Joe the convict. And I wanted to redeem myself from my dad's eyes. My mum came to visit me, not in the prison. I wouldn't let them visit me in the prison. They came to visit me when I was on a home leave. My mum, my Auntie Linda, my Auntie Geraldine, my Auntie Catherine, my mum and her 3 sisters came to visit me at the Dubliner pub. Paddy had arranged it, and it was just beautiful to watch them again off the coach. I didn't even know they were coming to visit. I was sitting at the Dubliner pub, and I said, look, that's my mum crossing the road. But I made a comeback in the boxing, Stephen. Yeah. And I had a big write-up in the boxing news. George Foreman made the comeback after 10 years. Big Joe Egan makes the comeback after 12 years. To get mentioned in the same paragraph as George Foreman, one of the greatest heavyweight champs of all time. And I had a comeback, and I won in the 5th round. I needed the money. And I wasn't going to go down the road of doing crime then or ever. And I made a comeback in the boxing, and I won. And it redeemed myself in my dad's eyes. You know, it's Joe the boxer again. That's all I ever wanted to do, was do him proud.
So, Joe, thanks for sharing that. And you know what, it really, you know, like for me, who's been through so much as well in that life, and I look at my own children, and I just, you know, I really get it. Thanks for sharing that, you know, and it shows, you know, it shows the depth of the man that you are. So look, I want to go on now to, you know, it's real life, this stuff, Joe. And this is the stuff that forges people. The real people out there, they know that it's the human story, right? All of it, you know, and this is what makes us the people we are, right? Never no judgment, only respect, dear Joe. So look, you come back and, you know, you went through that. So what happens then? Tell us about, what was the first thing that you thought when you met Mike Tyson? And where did you first meet him?
I boxed in America when I was 17, and I fought a big Marine sergeant, and he battered me. And whatever I did to impress Floyd Patterson, who was in attendance, Paul Fitzgerald, the featherweight, he won, so he impressed by winning. After the fight, Floyd came over. Now, I knew Floyd was great heavyweight champion of the world. He's married to an Irish lady from Offaly. And he said, you got a lot of courage and you got a good chin. You haven't got much skills, but we can work on that. Yeah. Would you like to stay on in America? So I said, yeah, of course I would. I would never have the money to come back. I remember phoning my mum. I said, Mum, I'm staying in America. She said, son, you'll never come home. I said, I'll be home next year, Mum. I went to Gleason's gym. I sparred a couple of pro heavyweights in Gleason's gym. Art Tucker, I can't remember the other heavyweight's name. Gave a good account of myself. Al Gavin and Bob Jackson, who'd done the original deal with Cuss on the gym in New York. They said there's a young heavyweight in the Catskills called Mike Tyson, 17, looking for sparring partners. I was just happy to 17, because I've been so used to fighting men on the doors at 15 and the boxing ring at 16 and 17. So I said, yeah, I'll have some of that. We went to the Catskills the next day. Was greeted by Cuss and Camille and Manny and Jay and Tom and the Hilton brothers and other fighters that were there, and it was just a beautiful, warm reception.
Yeah.
And then I met Mike. He came over to me. He was so happy to meet me because he's a fascination with the history of Irish boxing, and especially with the relationship that Mr. Eastwood and Barry McGuigan had at the time. When I went pro later on, years later, I went pro with Mr. Eastwood, and Barry's my friend, so I knew a lot about Barry. So when Mike was asking me about Barry, I was so chuffed to be able to brag about our world champion, Barry McGuigan, being my friend. So me and Mike hit it off instantly. We walked, we talked, and he's smaller than me.
Yeah.
He's younger than me, and he spoke with a bit of a lisp. He's several months younger than me. I really thought I've got his measure. I thought, I'm gonna batter him, Stephen. I really did believe that. You know, because I thought, I didn't know he was knocking men out. I didn't know he was knocking men out, but I didn't know he was knocking men out left, right, and centre. You know, so that night we got on great. Went to the top of the house. Mike at the top of the house, and we sat and we watched cine film of the old fights. And Mike had access to Jim Jacobs and Bill Caton's collection of films, biggest collection of fight films and fight footage in the world, and. To me, there's only so much boxing you can watch. To Mike Tyson, there wasn't enough. And he used to say to me, Joe, if that left hook had landed, that would change the whole history of that weight division. He was like a walking encyclopedia on boxing. But that night, we just got on so well. I went to my room, Mike slept that night, I slept that night. Next morning, we got up, we jogged together. After a mile, he took off like a gazelle. And I really thought in my mind, I've got your measure here. I really have your measure. Psychologically, I'm bigger, I'm older, I'm more experienced. Came back to the house, had a bit of food, lay down, got ready then midday, whatever time it was, to go on the minibus to the gym. Suddenly all these big powerhouses of men, I mean powerful looking men, they appeared with their heads on their chest, walking like this, walking like men going to the gallows. And I'm looking at these and I thought,
the gallows?
They knew what was coming. They knew what was coming. They were very sad and very somber. They knew. Stupid Paddy here didn't know what was coming, right? I sat on the minibus. They were sitting on the minibus like this. They were sitting and I could see some of them. Oh God, I'm relaxed. I'm comfortable. I'm confident. I've got his measure. Got to the gym, shadow boxing, warming up. Cuss said bandage up, glove up, or gloving up. I'm looking around for Mike. I look around, he's standing in the ring and he's stripped to the waist. I hadn't seen him stripped to the waist, Stephen. I'd never seen a physique on a 17-year-old in my life like that. His neck, his chest, his biceps.
The neck, didn't he? Yeah,
they call it a stovepipe neck. It comes down past his ears. I got a big neck. Nothing like that. He was just incredible physique. And his pace in the ring, like the lion in the zoo looking out the cage. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not the same 17-year-old boy that I met yesterday.
Switched it on, Joe.
Anyway, Cuss pointed to one of the sparring partners to get in, big powerhouse of a man, knocked Spark out. And I tell people, I say it all the time, I ruined a good pair of underpants at that moment in time. I shit myself. I thought there's no way this boy should have this power. A couple more got dispatched pretty quick. I was in number 4 again. Got battered for 3 minutes, got out, a couple more got in, back in again. I'd done 6 minutes with him that day. But in the madness in me, because I do believe you've got to have a bit of madness in you to be a fighter.
Yeah,
you have to. You know, you play soccer, basketball, golf, tennis, you don't play fighting.
Crazy.
So you've got to have a little bit of madness in you. All fighters have it. And I'm not being disrespectful to them, but I just believe that little bit of madness is in us. And the little bit of madness that's in me, maybe a little bit more than others, I believed in my mind, I'll get the better of you, Mike, one of these days. I never did. I stayed on with him for nearly 2 years, maybe more than 2 years. I was definitely there for 2 years. And I got battered for nearly 2 years. He made me cry many, many times. Hurt me many times. Hospitalised me. But I earned a lot of money while I was there. And the money that I earned helped shape my brothers and sisters' lives. One of my sisters came to America. She's still out there nearly 40 years later. She married a policeman in New York. He's retired now. My other sister went to university, became a chartered accountant. My other brother bought a milk float. He's got 4 now. And I helped my brothers and sisters because that's what you do. When you earn money, you send it
We're
home.
like that, the
Now my
Irish,
money,
as well.
my
We're
money
taught-
was
we're taught that,
yeah,
to look after
my
the
money
family.
was hard earned, but it helped my
mate.
brothers and sisters, and I was so happy to be able to do that.
to do that,
And Mike Tyson contributed to helping shaping my brothers and sisters' lives. When Cuss took sick, I left the camp. I could have stayed on. I was made so welcome there. It was like a home from home. But I thought it was a private time for Mike and close family to be with Cuss. So I left the camp. I've been back up to visit. I went back up to visit Camille and Manny, but I left the camp then. I've stayed friends with Mike. Mike has been to Ireland with me on 4 occasions. He visited my mother on 4 occasions, you know. And this particular day, Stephen, I'll just tell you this story, right? Mike had been talking to my mother on and off for 22 years. Never met her. And this day he said to me, he said, "How's your mother doing, Joe?" I said, "She's not so good, Mike. She had a lump removed from her neck. My Uncle Brian died at 47, never smoked in his life of cancer. My mum was a heavy smoker. And we were concerned." He said, "Let's go and visit your mother, Joe." So we landed in Dublin. Me and Mike, Scott Welch, and my fiancée Ruth, who since became my wife. And my mother was in my auntie's house, my auntie Linda's house, on a housing estate where my family had been evicted from, Stephen. I'll tell you that story as well, about my family eviction, right? On a housing estate that my family had been evicted from. And I'm now gone onto that housing estate with one of the greatest heavyweights of all time to visit my mother in my auntie's house. And it was an incredible feeling, an incredible feeling. And when Mike embraced my mum, a fragile woman, a man that can break bones with punches, when he embraced my mother with the love and affection, it was beautiful to see. They started talking about birthdays. Mike's birthday is the 30th of June and my mum's birthday is the 12th of July. And they're both of the same birth sign, Cancer. And Mike said, "Mrs. Egan," he said, "I remember on my 18th birthday, because we were together when we were 17. He said, you sent over a shoebox with some potatoes. This is all on the internet. You can watch this on the internet. I'm not making this up." He said, "You sent over a shoebox with some potato chips, Irish Tato crisps. Some money in an envelope, would have been very little money. And some sweatshirts, would have been second-hand sweatshirts. 22 years previous." And my mum said to Mike, "You remember that, Mike?" He said, "Mrs. Egan," he said, "very few people have given me anything in my life." "Yes, I remember that." Scott Welch and my wife, my fiancée at the time, they got choked up. They had to leave the room crying. Mike embraced my mum. She broke down crying. I broke down crying. Excuse the language. Mike looked at me and goes, "Joe, motherfucker, you're always crying." I do cry a lot, Stephen. And I just thought to myself, this is a man that could have been a billionaire athlete, remembering 22 years previous, a couple of packets of crisps, a couple of pounds in an envelope and some second-hand sweatshirts. I bet you couldn't remember what you got 22 years ago for a birthday present, but it showed you what it meant to that man. But what it meant to me going onto that housing estate was such a wonderful feeling, because Mike knew the history of my family. You know, we've been friends a lot of years, over 40 years now. And when me and my little brothers were children, my dad was away working, and we used to buy a bag of logs. We lived in the council house, 6 Bremen Grove, and we used to buy a bag of logs for £1.50. And we used to chop the logs into sticks, and we get the inner tube of a car, and we'd cut the inner tube of a car, and we'd make a big elastic band, and we'd put them around the bundle of sticks, and we'd sell them bundles of sticks, and we'd make £7.50. 3 little boys making some extra pennies, some extra pounds for my other brothers and sisters. And we used to give some to my mum. She'd buy us cigarettes and stuff. So somebody reported us to say that we were running a business from the back of a council house. Little boys chopping sticks. Anyway, the council put the rent up to maximum rent. They put the rent up to maximum rent, and they backdated it years, and they said we owed them £6,000 in arrears.
Classy, yeah?
Yep. That's since been proven wrong. The same council, corruption at the highest level, right? But at the time, they're making an example of my family. So my dad came home from England, and he said, "This is wrong. This is wrong. What's going on?" So my dad fought them in court, right? And was winning in court. Actually, he was winning. But I was away boxing in Denmark. I was boxing in Esbjerg, and I was boxing in Copenhagen. I fought Brian Nielsen, who went on to fight Tyson. And I was over there in Denmark and had my fight, and I'm phoning home to let my dad and my mum know the result, and I was okay. And I couldn't get an answer on my family home's number, and there's 6 children and my mum and dad. There has to be somebody in. So I ring my nana, my mum's mum, and she breaks down crying on the phone, and she said, your mum's okay. Your mum's all right. I said, what do you mean my mum's okay? She said, your mum's tried to kill herself. I said, no, my mum wouldn't do that. My mum's happy as Larry with her several children and a good husband. My mum's happy as Larry, Nana. What are you talking about? But what had happened was the council had sent an eviction letter to the wrong address. But lucky enough, the postman, he knew the family and he delivered the letter. So my dad was able to get some friends in the house for when the bailiffs came the next day, 30 or 40 bailiffs. And my dad fought for 4 days against the bailiffs, bully thugs, right? And during the siege, it was too much for my mum. And she slit her wrists and stuck a knife in her stomach in front of my little brother Connolly. And front page news, first floor had been brought out on a stretcher. They couldn't open the front door to let her out because the bailiffs would have got in. And God knows what they would have done if they'd have got in. Bully, thug, scum. And 4 days, my dad fought the bailiff. I didn't know this was going on my way boxing for my country. All because of 3 little boys chopping sticks.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, after 4 days, the police were called in. And my grandfather had been a sergeant in the police, and my dad respected the police. And the police didn't want to be involved. There was front page and my dad coming out shaking hands with the chief of police. They said they were sorry, but they had to get involved because the bailiffs couldn't get in, because of the proud men and women that fought in that house against this scum. Anyway, when I got picked up at Dublin Airport, I didn't know this had been national news. The coach driver, the rest of the team, they'd been told what was happening. I was a little boy. Young teen. I was a little boy. I was 16, right? I wasn't a little boy. I'd been a little boy chopping sticks for this ordeal to happen to me as a 16-year-old. And I got dropped at the bottom of the road. They named the road Sean Moore Road after the TD, which is the equivalent of an MP in this country. They named that road after the man that had helped fight for my family. He was a government minister and he tried to stop the wrongdoings to us, and they named that road after him, Sean Moore Road. So now I'm running this road with my sports bag over my shoulder and my suitcase, and I get into the vision. There was a wall just at the cul-de-sac, so I've come round the wall and I see my dad sitting in a rocking chair outside my family home with all my belongings out in the street all broken up, wardrobes broken, all my trophies all broken. I had beautiful boxing trophies. The bailiff smashed all my trophies. You know, I couldn't smash my medals, but they smashed my trophies, Stephen. And my dad done a vigil on what was our belongings. You know, my brothers and sisters were put into other people's houses, and it broke my mum and dad up. My mum survived, but it broke them up. My dad and mum, they loved each other till their dying days, but my dad couldn't live in Ireland anymore. My mum didn't want to come to England to live or live in America. And I got hurt over that because we'd all been good ambassadors for Ireland, you know. I was a boxer for Ireland. My brother was a runner for Ireland. My brothers and sisters all over the world. But we'd always...
So you've done your bit.
Yeah, and what was done to us all the years later was proven to be right, because the Dublin Council at the time were wrong, they were corrupt. But the wrongdoing was already done. It couldn't be undone. And... It was hard. When people say about, I'm not on a pity trip, Stephen. I'm not on any pity trip in any shape or form. I've had a good life, but I've had a hard life. The boxing ring was safe for me. The boxing ring was safe, and would still be safe today if we were still fighting. If John Fury takes this fight.
Joe, do you know what? I had another Irish champion here, Peter McDonough, right? And we sat here, Peter, lovely guy, right? He told me the same thing. He said, Stephen, in the ring was where one was safety. When it was out of it was when I was having problems, really. I've heard it, Joe. Right, I've heard it a few times, I get it. So, look, there's a lot of glory as well. You know, you've done a lot of things many people will never understand or will never do. Boxing is certainly one of the hardest sports for sure. And you've got to be, and I will say about it is, look, I even remember a friend of mine, he was saying about Sylvester Stallone, when he was...
At dinner with Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, but, just to tell the audience, to give him a little flavour, he got Roberto Duran, over to help him, they're doing the casting. And he even said, even when you get in the ring, just a move of the head, you're in a different world, a different league with these kind of people, right?
Tell us about Sylvester Stallone then.
I got to go to a dinner with Sylvester Stallone with John Caldwell's children's charity. And we're in the restaurant. A friend of mine called Joe Ricotta, but Joe Ricotta is friends with Stallone and he's friends with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. Joe's a very good friend of mine, sponsors the boxing. And John Caldwell had done the big event and incredible night. And we went back to the restaurant, me and my friend Kamal Singh, Scott Welch, the former British and Commonwealth champion, his son Tom. We went back to the restaurant and Sylvester Stallone was in the restaurant. We all had the feed and stuff. And I got my pictures. I got my picture with Sylvester Stallone, but he's fascinated.
You have to have the feed, John.
Oh yeah. He's fascinated about boxing. And the thing is, he's put boxing on the map in the films, right? Because the Rocky films are incredible.
It's the most iconic, that tune there. And it's made so many people. I just said this before, I watched something, I thought, you know what, Joe is so right there. Because even that music lifts you up, doesn't it, Joe?
When I was training.
It's so iconic, timeless classic.
We spoke about it the other day, me and some of my friends. The original Rocky music will stand the test of time.
100%.
Eye of the Tiger, it's just incredible. And but they were based on true stories, the Chuck Wepner story,
Absolutely.
And Sylvester Stallone, to do boxing so proud, because if you look at some of the things that happen in the films, in particular when Rocky wins the title against Apollo Creed, right? He had the hard fights in Rocky 1, gave it his all, right? As fighters do. It was an incredible film. Then in the second one, then he wins the title in the rematch with Apollo Creed, right? Then he's on the money trip. He's now got luxuries that he's never had before. Because people say about boxers coming from the gutter. They say boxers come from the gutter. I don't like that terminology. Boxers come from humble beginnings.
Yeah, humble.
So he would have very humble beginnings, right? Yeah. So suddenly now he's got all the money. So now he's on the trip of success with riches. And Mr. T, Clubber Lang, he turns up.
Changes it, doesn't it, John?
Changes it because he's still got that hunger.
The hunger.
Right?
Sly, he has to take it.
Sly hasn't got that hunger anymore. Sly hasn't got that hunger anymore because he's doing advertisements. Now listen to this, right? Listen to this, right? Lennox Lewis, right? Lennox Lewis, when he was the champion, both his losses, Hasim Rahman and Oliver McCall. One of them he was doing a Nelson Mandela publicity tour. The other one he was doing an Ocean's 11 film. Both times he lost. Failed to prepare, be prepared to fail.
The focus
right?
is not there, really.
Failed to prepare, be prepared to fail. And both times Lennox didn't prepare properly and lost to these two men. When he came back and prepared properly, he beat both of these men. That's after the Rocky film. Don't forget Rocky 3. So in Rocky 3, Stallone failed to prepare for Clubber Lang. Mr. T prepared and he beat him. And then Stallone went back to the old ways of training. And that's happened in real life with boxers. Yeah. The one I just mentioned there, Lennox Lewis, with Rahman and McCall. Yeah. Right? So Stallone knew the game. He knew the sport. He knew the fighter's mind. Because he'd done that film, Rocky 3, long before Lennox Lewis had lost to Rahman and McCall. Because he'd seen it with other fighters that suddenly get all these riches. Right? And then suddenly, the trappings of success can be that downfall. Right? And that's what happens to a lot of fighters. The trappings of success, the money, the women, the fame, the fortune, the cars,
changes it. Success changes it, Joe, and money. So you know yourself, don't it?
When you've got young fighters that come from nothing, suddenly get all this rags to riches, right? I've suddenly got all these riches. It is difficult. What was a saying somebody said? You know, it's hard to drag yourself out on a cold winter's morning at 4 o'clock when you got silk sheets to go running, right?
It's true, though.
Right, so you've still got to be hungry, right, and have that total focus, tunnel vision, and it's difficult when you got millions in the bank and you got all these people wanting you to endorse. Listen, Anthony Joshua was the same. Anthony Joshua was the same. He had all these endorsements, all these commitments separate to his boxing, and when you take your foot off the pedal for boxing to go and do these other things,
Focus goes, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You
focus
spread yourself
goes,
too
you know.
thin, and that's not a game.
now he's got his focus back.
Yeah.
Now he's got his focus back.
He
He looked
can
great.
start
He looked great against Wallen. He exposed Wallen. Do you know what I mean? It's happened with Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Fury, he's took his foot off the game doing his family program, you know, being at home with the Furies, and then he got cut, you know, and he didn't look as good as what he can look. And you've only got a few years in the sport.
Yeah.
You know, for them few years, you've got to be totally dedicated, disciplined, you know, tunnel vision, too many distractions.
Let me ask you, look, I want to come around to a couple more things about
But
this.
see my life.
Yeah.
See my life, Stephen. My life has been a hard life. I'm a working man. I've worked all my life, right? I work hard now. I'm breaking into the films. I'm getting some good parts in the films. I've worked on over 60 films. I've worked with 4 Academy Award winners. Cass Pennant, who published my book, Pennant Publications, he gave me a part in his movie Cass. Me and my wife, we played the landlord and landlady of the Britannia pub. I met an actor on the film set called Tamer Hassan. He said, "You got a good presence on screen, Joe. Do you fancy an acting career?" I said, "I've acted my way through a boxing career, Tamer. I'll give it a go." He introduced me to his agent. His agent sent me for a casting for a film called Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. I was to play a character called McMurdo. I went for the audition, got the part. The casting agents have went, "You got an incredible, intimidating stare." I said, "I've had to look into the eyes of Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis to intimidate them, to intimidate a couple
I've
of
had
casting
plenty of
agents."
practice.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got the part. I went to do the read-through in Claridge's Hotel. My nameplate, Joe Egan, next to Jude Law, Robert Downey Jr., Eddie Marson, Rachel McAdams, who went on to get the Academy Award for Southpaw, all the hierarchy of Warner Brothers, sitting opposite Guy Ritchie and Joel Silver, the CEO of Warner Brothers. Guy said, "Joe, I've been trying to get you in one of my films for a long time." Robert Downey Jr. leaned in. "This is Iron Man." He said, "Joe, you come with a fearsome reputation." I couldn't believe, Stephen, that these people even knew me. I travelled down in the minibus to do the practice fight. And Guy said to me, "How are things, Joe?" I said, "Things are okay, Guy. I'm making ends meet. I'm a working man." He said, "Has your agent told you much you're getting for the fight scene?" I said, "I never even asked. I'm just honoured to be in your film." When he told me, it was more than I got in any of my pro fights. And I was deadly serious. I said, "Guy, for that money," I said, "Robert Downey Jr. can really hit me. You can kick me as well if you want to." He took a fit of laughing. And he said, "Joe, I don't want you being beaten up." I said, "Guy, I've been beaten up for a lot less. I do a few weeks in hospital for that money." And then I didn't have to do the fight scene, Stephen. I got a part in the prison where I got called Big Joe by Robert Downey Jr., an Academy Award winner. Calls me by my own name in a Warner Brothers movie directed by Guy Ritchie. And it made my mum so proud. It made her proud, Stephen, because my boxing made my dad proud and my acting made my mum proud. And then I got to do more films after that. I'd done the Sherlock Holmes 2. And then recently was the last film I'd done, Prize Fighter with Russell Crowe, who calls me Joe in the film. So I get called my own name by 2 Academy Award winners. Haven't done anything since because 2022 was a horrific year for me. My daddy went on the 24th of April. My mum went on the 28th of December. So 2023 was sort of a write-off year for me. And then this year, it's given me, I've revived. I'm back. Do you understand? I got over, to a certain extent, losing my mum and dad. I'll never get over them. I'll never get over losing them. But the pain has eased. And then this year started well for me. And then I got the opportunity of this fight. And I've stepped up to the mark. And John Fury, you step up to the mark as well. Deal with Misfits Boxing. And let's get it on, me and you. Come on.
But look, Joe, listen. It's been great talking to you, as always. Man after my own heart, really. Thanks
Stephen,
for coming
thank you very
on,
much.
brother.
Absolute
I'm
pleasure.
telling you.
Absolute
I wish
pleasure.
you all the very best
Thank you.
in your life,
Thank
my
you.
brother. And I know there's so much to come.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks very much, everyone. God bless you all.